Alright, so we're gonna do our video reflection for game programming here. Just gonna, I guess, go over some of the stuff we did, why it was like that, anything we tried, and then probably end off just talking about a couple points of stuff for the project. So, some of the first things I'd done was, I think one of my very first things I'd done for this sprint, as this was our polish sprint, and we were working to just make sure everything looked good, everything ran smoothly. I was playtesting to make sure everything everything went together well. So my first small thing was to flip the direction of the chest, as the way it had been pointing the opposite direct. Instead of pointing like kind of at the player, it was flipped around like this. So whenever the chest would open, it would open with the back to it. So we flipped it around so that you could see it open a lot better. It just made more sense, made it more clear to the player that, hey, this was opening, instead of it being pointed the wrong direction. There were smaller things, we had changed the font on our timer to match the rest of our game. With our player, is it here? It's currently turned off, but we implemented a stun animation onto the player above their head. It is currently running very fast, but so I'd hook this one up. The way we decided to go about doing it was because we were having issues with it not showing up properly, not appearing when we were just trying to like instantiate it and have it play every time. So we ended up turning it into like a child object of the player, and then so that it would follow them around and had it be looping constantly. And then whenever the player would be stunned, we'd turn the object on and turn it off, which is how we did that. And yeah, we decided to do it that way just because our original thought of having it just play whenever, it was just giving us too many issues that we couldn't figure out. So another thing, just another small thing, was with the original countdown display I'd done last sprint that counted down the last 10 seconds of the game. Our team lead had asked me to make those a little smaller, so we did that just to make it so it didn't cover as much space. But then we also, in pretty much the same sort of way as those, we set up a start countdown display, which would essentially work the same way that, if I can find it here, yeah, our game countdown display. So it would start pretty much it would work the exact same way as the countdown display, where it would pop them up on the screen. I can actually just open it here. But yeah, we would enable a couple different methods to start them. Set it false at the start, and then our handle gameplay method would basically, if the go to gameplay button had been hit, we would start our countdown coroutine, which would start that. And during that, we had the timer paused so that once this finished, the timer could start properly. And that's kind of essentially how that one worked. Let's see what else. Re-added our hover states to our different buttons, as we had only added them to the main menu pages. I talked about this in my other video but I had created this little sparkle VFX for our ore that we use when we're depositing it. I guess I had technically made both of them. I'd made, I think it's just the ore image. I'd made the little visual aspect to it, and then we had this ore image script, which would basically find the transform position at the start, and then we would move the image from the start position, which would be basically where our player was at, to our target, which we had set up as our chest, which I believe is on the chest prefab. Open that up. Yes, we added in here the ore image prefab and the ore spawn height. So we dragged the image in here, spawn height, and this is where we would track it. So yeah, when you'd go to deposit, the image would appear above the player's head and move towards the chest and slowly fade out over time. See? But yeah, using the, I think it's called Bezier loop, to try and make it float a little. So it kind of had like an arc to it almost. It would go from the start to the point and then clamp it, and then we'd fade it as it went to the chest, and then I would destroy it so we didn't have them lingering in the scene. And that was how that one worked. Let's see. This was a small thing, but I had readjusted the... We had some confusion on the character select screen, so I had readjusted the screen and added the different player icons to it just to make it a little clearer. If I turn this off, another thing I had done, which is on both the results screen and on the onboarding screen, is that our main button, oh, it's on this one. On the onboarding controller, I put a small delay on the button just because we had the issues with people just spamming their way through the screen and not reading it. We set the interact button to be not interactable at the start, and then we'd wait for like 2 or 3 seconds and then turn it back on, just to kind of force the players to read it. And then we copied this, pretty much this whole thing, threw it into our results screen as well, so that people also wouldn't spam through results on accident. Then I touched on this in my other video for Engine, but one of the bugs we had in our game that we ended up fixing was with the player input manager. So we had since we had the joining enabled by default, the players could join whenever they wanted. It didn't matter where they were at, what state they were at. So after getting some help, doing some research, getting some help, we turned this off by default, and then in our game state manager set it up so that the player input manager enabled joining only in character select and then would disable it again otherwise. And then aside from that, and I believe that's actually pretty much most of this, at least what I have for my task list and some stuff that I know off the top of my head I did. There's a lot of other just small like polish and tweaks and stuff like that I did for this sprint, but that is kind of the brunt of it. But let's see. So I'm gonna end this just, I guess, talking about lessons learned throughout the duration of the project, which I think I'm just gonna touch on the one point here, which is what would I do differently if I could go back to the beginning? I think maybe I think the kind of like what I'd want to do differently would be, I guess, kind of try and jump into my role a bit sooner. Because I think at the start, since I was taking somebody else's idea and using it for the game, I think I kind of, during the first sprint or two, kind of stepped back from game design, which I shouldn't have done, because it kind of reflected poorly on me. Because I was just kind of taking their idea, we were rocking with it, we weren't really doing much else with the basic idea. And I think it would have benefited a lot. Our game could have been better earlier on if I'd actually been focusing on, is what we have good? Is it fun? Like, are we enjoying this? Because I feel like I didn't really do that, which I should have. But I think as we went through the sprints and as we, continued working on the game, I do believe I managed to step up into the role more, and I was, bringing more ideas out onto the table, expressing them with our team, thinking, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'd like to see, and I feel like I managed to end off the role in a decent spot. Yeah. I guess another thing we do differently would be, I know there's not really much I can do about it. Maybe try to have like stricter deadlines for having stuff done. Because I know even even though we had like in our Trello board we were putting all of our tasks, we would have like a due date assigned to each of them that our team lead wanted us to get them done by. A lot of us, I feel a lot of members on our team didn't properly follow that, but it's not really something I can change. It's not too much we get it done with that. But I think at the end of the day, I'm quite proud of the game we were able to make. I think it went really well. I think we have a nice, fun game. There's a few things I'd like to see in, which I would love to work on a little more, see if we could get a few more the mechanics we wanted in to try and strengthen like what we already have as a good game loop. Other than that, I'm very happy with where our game ended up. I think it turned out very well. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this.